Hello, so today I want to talk about the CREST mechanic. So this is a new thing, in my opinion, might be one of the best things they've introduced in years into the game, in which it doesn't count as part of your main deck, but you start the game with it. So while this CREST here is called Chronojet Dragon, it doesn't actually stop you from playing 4 Chronojet Dragons in your main deck. And this thing, it's sort of like a forerunner in a way, because do you remember the days when we had like 7 years of Vanguard and every starter did basically different things, and then suddenly we switched to V series where the starters all did the same thing, and of course in D it still continued where every starter did the same thing. Obviously that's taken away some appeal from the game. Everyone plays them anyway because they're the best cards to play, but obviously they're homogenous, it's kind of dull, and it's taken away one of the appeals from the older days of the game. Now, the CREST mechanic actually kind of makes up for that in a way, except it's actually stronger than Forerunners because you don't lose it. It sort of just stays on the field. Unless they invent cards that kill the CREST marker, then that's a whole different story. But it's very useful because it's also got the potential to bring back old cards as well, which I really like. And they're doing that with Chronojet Dragon here. They buffed him up to give him 2k more base power, so 13k base. You can also give your units, will make their grade 0 actually. You can even give them 5k for every G unit you have face up. So it's a really cool idea in a way. And to make it even better, the thing is that Chronojet Dragon opens the potential, because it's acknowledging the generation break mechanic. It kind of puts hope that maybe they'll start actually putting cards in the game that actually feature Legion, Limit Break, or some of the keywords like Harmony or Oracle or Brave. And I think that will be really good as well, because one of the things, like criticisms me and others have, of course, any long-time fans of the game, is that there's just been this sort of starvation of new cards that are based around older decks. Everything has kind of mostly felt like it's support for, well, Persona Ride decks, of course, but also gift marker decks. But all the grade 3s from before then, they've all kind of felt like they've been phased out, unless they just happen to be really strong, like Ange, which obviously got limited. But even Lawad now is not seeing as much play as it used to be, and that was one of the strongest or most played grade 3s from back in the day that actually stayed around for quite a while. So it's really good that we've got now this new mechanic, and what I think this does is it opens the potential as well for them to actually make more of these in the future. I hope they do. I hope they just stop it at Chronojet Dragon. And of course, by doing so, it means they can revive all kinds of deck themes. Now, I've always kind of found it kind of disappointing that we've never had support for older decks, except through, for example, we've had Battle Sisters recently, or Blue Wave, and obviously that's helped with some of the old G-era decks, because throughout V, we don't really see any support for them, but with Clan Selection and Collection, they did start supporting old subclans again. Obviously, with V, you had Deleters, you had Magus, those kinds of things, like anything that appeared in the anime would get the support, the revival support. Now, I like having new decks as well, because we've got Uranus, we've got Malkuth, we've got God Hand, for example, or Hanzo as well. They're also cool, but obviously, it's nice to also have like some cards that also kind of shout back to the old days. Yu-Gi-Oh, by the way, still does it. Like right now, the new set, they have Element Hero Shining Flare Neos Wingman. And that, by the way, is the closest I have ever felt I actually want to play Yu-Gi-Oh again, by the way, because I've not played the game in 10 years. So that's a really big appeal, and I think this game needs to do it more often, where they kind of reward people for having old cards, or just, you can still reissue and reprint, of course, but just it's sort of like just a way to kind of bring back people's nostalgia and play with their old decks again, have some fun there as well, because there's a lot of ways you can enjoy the game. And I feel like there's sort of been this thing where some decks have kind of like, there's maybe too much going into just playing one variant over other variants, and of course it's nice to have different variants and just be able to kind of get creative. And I know there's still a lot of untapped potential with that, so obviously that's like one of the things. This game is basically got a lot of untapped potential. Like it's good as it is, but it could be like so much more, which is just insane as well when you think about it. Because we don't really do as much with the old mechanics as, you know, we may like to, whereas other card games such as Yu-Gi-Oh actually do a lot with older mechanics as well. So that's pretty good. And it also reminds me of when V started, actually. I actually considered the idea of a CREST in my head before. Well, obviously not the word CREST, because I couldn't predict that, but the idea that there's a sort of card effect or rule that you play that activates from the start of the game. So the reason why that thought crossed my mind is because of triggers. So when we had the new V triggers, it felt like it just phased out all the old triggers. So I just thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could still play the old triggers, but maybe they retain the shield value, for example, so we don't just die to... obviously, one of the reasons why people still play V triggers is because they want defense. And so, obviously, decks like Zodiac Time Beast, for example, or Regalia to some extent, but Regalia is actually kind of being able to pick us way a bit more than Zodiac Time Beast, is that you can actually still use these triggers to... if you had a Crest mechanic, you can still use these triggers to still get the defensive value you need. Even like damage triggers, if you gave 10k power instead of 5k, for example, to old era cards, then that way you'd actually be able to defend yourself against rush decks as well, like Ripples right now. That's the deck that maybe people want to get 10k triggers against. There's always some deck that comes about that you generally want to play V triggers against, because like Nightmare Dolls at one point, Ezel at one point. So it's always kind of gatekept people from wanting to play the old triggers as well. Another reason I thought about Crest as well is because of gift markers. I mean, I think I've seen some people suggest it, like they wish the older grade 3s actually had gift markers as well, but obviously that never happened. Maybe that could have been something as well. I'm not suggesting that they do it. Obviously, it'd be more interesting to actually made something like this, actually, because I think making skills, like making extension effects that differentiate from a generic playstyle, such as Protect Gift or Force Gift, which, you know, Force Gifts are like, what, 1/2 of the clans can do it, I think. I don't even know. But there's a lot of clans. And I think this is kind of a better version of it. So there's a lot of potential. I hope they really, really keep on with this. Like, just do more of these. And I hope Overdress also just has no shyness towards introducing or reintroducing other things as well, which can be cool in Premium, but also reintroducing decks again, so sort of in a way like being a reprint set, because this Chronojet Dragon, this new one we've got, it reminds of what Yu-Gi-Oh does, like when they release, for example, a structure deck, and that structure deck has some old cards reprinted, and of course this time around you actually play the old version in that format, so that's a bit different. Well, not different to Yu-Gi-Oh, but it's different to what you'd expect, because in Yu-Gi-Oh there's no sort of rotation format there, so you're always able to play Blue Eyes White Dragon, for example, no matter what printing is, or Cyber Dragon, etc. Whereas Chronojet Dragon, you can actually play the old one, which is, of course, great, because it makes you kind of feel that appeal that Yu-Gi-Oh still has, and Vanguard traditionally had, but then it's kind of been a bit more lost. But now it's kind of coming back again with this, so I really like this as well. And it's also an opportunity to also introduce more new cards to then put on top. So it's a very good idea. And I think it's just great. That's why I made a video on it, because I really like this, and I just want to talk about the potential that this brings to the game. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Like, what do you think? Are there maybe any dream Crest ideas you have? Like some that you'd like to see for certain boss cards that you think would be really cool? Let me know down below, and yeah, like and subscribe for even more, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.